Okay, so here we are live once again with another Batman classic TV show unboxing, and this is the nefarious Clock King, and we're gonna have a lot to talk about with this character's history. And I should point out that I am very much of this opinion. A lot of people tend to look at the Clock King as being one character. No, it's three different characters, and I'm going to get into all that. In addition to, in the last episode, I'd opened up the Batman robot. This episode, I'm opening up the Clock King, and the other figure that I got in this Mcfarlane shipment was the Batman the animated series colored Batgirl. We'll talk more about that obviously when we open that up. But I'd forgotten there was one more of the classic TV series figures that I hadn't opened yet that I'd set aside. I found him at Ross a while back, and you can see the price tag. That was only $4.99. So that's the cheapest one of these I've gotten so far. But it's Joker Man. So another variant based on the comic book. And here's something funny about this one is you see that he's got that comic book logo on there too. It says Batman 66 and not Batman Classic TV series, which implies to me that they weren't able to get the likeness rights to excuse me, what was his name? Henry Slezar, I think is his name, that played the Clock King. But it looks very much like how he looked in the show to me. I think that's a good likeness. So I don't know. I don't know what was up with that. So a lot of people think that the Clock King, as he appeared on the 1966 Batman television series, was based on the Green Arrow villain of the same name from the comics. But I do not believe that that is the case. I think it is simply a coincidence that these two characters are both named Clock King. And unless somebody can find some proof, like Bill Finger himself saying, yeah, when I wrote that episode, I based him on the Green Arrow villain called the Clock King. I'm gonna assume that that is not the case. Like you could even prove to me that like Bill Finger created that character, like wrote some Green Arrow comics and created that character. That would be fine. I would say okay, well he just used the, but I don't know if there's any sort of connection at all. There's nothing that I can find to prove in my mind that they are the same character. And in fact, they are not the same character now, because in the Batman 66 comic book, uh, they revealed that his actual name was Morris Tetch, and he is actually the brother of the Mad Hatter. Why this decision was made in the comic, I honestly could not tell you. My guess is just that like they're both guys in top hats with mustaches and funky fake eyebrows. So somebody did that, like I guess is like an inside joke on the fact that they slightly resemble each other. But if I was going to make anybody the brother of the Mad Hatter, I would have chosen the Bookworm instead, because as we all know, the Bookworm was played by Roddy McDowall, who also played on Batman the Animated Series. He was the Mad Hatter. So that would have made a lot more sense to me. I'm just saying. But yeah, so the Clock King, as we saw in the Green Arrow comics, bore absolutely no resemblance to this character whatsoever. The only thing they have in common is they have some clocks on their outfits and they have capes, and that's about it. Like that Clock King wore like a blue spandex number with a green cape and green trunks, and he literally had a clock face for his face. He's wearing a clock face as a mask, and as you can see, this guy's just kind of in a suit and tie with some clocks on it, and got an opera cape and a top hat, so he's a little formal. But he was a pretty cool villain. But honestly, I don't think that they made this figure just based on the merits of doing a figure of the Clock King. There are other villains that I think would have been a better choice, like say the Mad Hatter that we'd already mentioned, or hell, I would have even rather seen Chandel, because who wouldn't want to have a Liberace action figure? So I mean, like, I can see why they might skip, say, the Siren or Marsha, Queen of Diamonds, because those would have taken a lot of extra tooling for one thing, and for another thing, female figures don't sell. So that's what they believe anyway. But yeah, I don't think the Clock King was a bad choice though. But I think that the main reason he was picked was because the Clock King was such a badass villain on Batman the Animated Series, and that character is not even the same as this character, nor is he the same as the Green Arrow character. So the Green Arrow version of the Clock King, as I think I mentioned, his name was William Talkman. This character's name is, we found out later in the comic book, his name is Morris Tetch. And the Green Arrow, the Batman the Animated Series version is named Temple Fugit, which is a play on the term Tempus Fugit, which means time flies. By the way, this guy also has a patch on his jacket that says Tempus Fugit. So, there is a little bit of a connection there. But like Batman the Animated Series often did with its villains, it reinvented him and made him a lot more cool and a lot more badass. And like I said, I think that that's a completely different character from this Clock King. They don't have the same name. They don't have the same outfit. They don't really have the same modus operandi. They're pretty much completely different characters that just happen to be named Clock King. They're all three completely different characters that happen to be named Clock King. Now, that having been said, Clock King had a few more appearances that are, to me, a little more vague as to which version they are. There was a Clock King on Batman the Brave and the Bold, which you might think would be the Talkman version of Clock King because he wears the same outfit. But when we see that character unmasked, he looks a lot like this version of Clock King. So is it Talkman or is it Morris Tetch? Who knows? And there's another Clock King on the Poison Ivy, not Poison Ivy, might as well be the Poison Ivy show, on the Harley Quinn show. I haven't actually seen the episodes, but from what I understand, that version of the Clock King is in a romantic relationship with the Riddler. Weird show, man. I gotta tell you. I don't really mind. Like, it doesn't really bother me that they would make like the Riddler gay or whatever. Who cares? It's the Riddler. It's he can swing whatever way he wants to. Nobody, I don't really care. But but it is kind of funny that they hook those two. I think it's funny anyway. But yeah, we can see the artwork on the back. It's that same piece of Mike Allred artwork that we often get on the back of these figures. It's almost always on the back of the comic book versions of the characters. So for whatever reason, they decided to classify this one as a comic book version, even though to me he does look like the actor from the television show. So I don't think that they I don't think that they had a problem getting the likeness rights, because this is still close enough. I think that the lawyers would have a problem with it otherwise. Well, let's go ahead and open them up. And he does seem like this one does seem like it's stuck on there pretty well. Hell, even the sticker on the inside that lists the serial number and the official name of the character, it says Clock King Comic. So they want you to know that this is the 1966 comic book version. This is not. So I just took the bubble off. He doesn't have the cape through the bubble like he often does. But here's a detail that impresses me. He actually does have the little clock decal on they made a little decal and put it on the back of his cape. So that's nice. Let's go ahead and get this all put back together. Man, there's like, they did kind of, I guess, sandwich this in here somehow for the cape. Like the figure should rest in there. That looks like it goes on his front. I don't know, man. We'll just get this all put back together. And he's on like they doubled the bubble on this. Weird, man. I don't know. Well, that's the Batman robot. Both him and the Batman robot seem to come on like bigger packages to me. Anyway, let's go ahead and have a look at our figure. And this top hat is not removable. I thought that it might be removable, but it's not. He does have a cape that clips onto his neck like a superpowers figure, and you can actually see that the on this one the cape clip actually is kind of sticking out of the cape a little bit, but it's all black, so you shouldn't notice it that much. He had his cape collar kind of folded up like Dracula, but that's not how he wore it on the show, so I'm going to go ahead and fold it back down. Now, with the cape off of him, I do think he looks a little bit narrow in the shoulders. I thought I had the Commissioner Gordon figure over here so we could compare, but I don't see him around right now. So he might be buried under something. But yeah, he might not be anywhere where I can get to him because I've got like a whole big pile of action figures right here. The stuff I've been going through. Is the Joker around anywhere? So I usually almost always have the Joker around here somewhere. I do have a few different Joker figures, but I don't see him around right now either. And this cape is double-sided, by the way. It's got red on the inside and black on the outside. So it's nice to see that they were able to give him a two-tone cape because he did have that on the show. But he does seem like he's a little narrow in the shoulders. I think that the actor was a bit more broad on the show, and this might be like something where they just did a separate, like the jacket's a separate piece from the torso, so they might have done something, I was thinking, where they just put the jacket over the suit torso that we usually see, but I don't think it is, because he does have the little clock tie tack on there, but and he does have a wristwatch that's sculpted onto the hand. I don't think that these are original arms. I think these are the same suit arms that we always see on these figures. So it would make sense that they wouldn't exactly like go through the trouble of sculpting new suit arms for this guy. But they did give him new hands, and that means that they did give him where you can see he's got a watch there. The Clock King had several watches that he wore. I think it was at least 3 of them on the show. And he does have, like I said, he's got that patch on his jacket that says Tempus Fugit on there, and it's got a clock, and he's got little clocks on each pocket. So and then he's got a little watch on his lapel pin and a watch on the top of his hat. He's got clocks all over the place. So he's pretty clock crazy, as you can see. But yeah, I don't think that they used too much of this character when they did the Batman the Animated Series version. I did rewatch just to refamiliarize myself with the character. I rewatched the 2-parter with the Clock King on the original television series, and I watched the episode with the Clock King, which was imaginatively titled The Clock King, on Batman the Animated Series. And to me, they just seem like 2 completely different characters, although they both have like that fascination with timepieces, much like Lieutenant Sulu. If you remember the classic Star Trek episode, the Corbomite maneuver, that Spock remarked that Sulu had an annoying fascination with timepieces as he kept counting down. But yeah, so it's a nice looking figure and pretty accurate to the show. The one difference that I can see between the actor and this, it's not even in the head sculpt, because like I said, the head sculpt to me, it looks like the actor, but he's got black hair, whereas the actor had gray hair. But you know, I don't think that's that big of a difference. So let's see. The Clock King can look up about that far, look down about that far, tilt his head kind of quizzically from side to side, rotate the head all the way around. It's worth pointing out that I think this is probably the best head articulation that I've ever seen on one of these Batman 66 figures. Like, oddly enough. Of course, the arms rotate all the way around the shoulders, and they raise up to the sides about that far. He's wearing a suit, but it doesn't seem to interfere with the arm articulation that much. It's fine. He's got a single joint of articulation at the elbow that bends about that far and rotates all the way around. He's got 2 solid fists. This guy doesn't come with any accessories, but even if he did, He couldn't hold them unless you count the cape as an accessory, which I don't. That's to me that's part of the figure, even if it's removable. So the wrists rotate all the way around, and he does rotate all the way around at the waist underneath the jacket. The Clock King can kick up about that far, about 90 degrees. So it doesn't seem like the jacket interferes with the articulation of his legs too much, and that's a good thing. And can kick back about that far, so he can do the splits no problem. All right. Who knew that the Clock King was that nimble? Well, at least the 1966 Clock King. I think that the BTAS version would be that nimble. So the Clock King has a single joint of articulation at the knee, which seems really stuck on this one. And if I coax it gently, then I can get it to bend not quite 90 degrees. It looks like it should bend a little bit further than that, but I'm not going to press my luck. I'm going to say that's about the best articulation you got there. Finally streaming at a reasonable hour, I see, says Lone Dragon. Well, you know me, I'm a night owl, so I pretty much just stream whenever, whenever I feel like, it just is what it is. There's not like a set schedule to this show. I pretty much just put them up whenever, and I figure people can watch them whenever. So, I mean, like I'm not gonna force anybody to adhere to my schedule, and I wouldn't want anybody to force me to adhere to theirs. So let's go ahead and put the cape back on him so we can get the full effect. And like I said, I've now flipped the collar down so it looks a little more accurate to what the Clock King looked like on the television series. And there we go. So he's a pretty impressive looking figure for, a guy who's kind of a fat guy in a suit. I mean, the cape and the top hat kind of give him a little bit more of that supervillain sort of aspect. He almost kind of reminds me of like a Snidely Whiplash kind of character, like the old mustache twirling movie serial villain, like Perils of Pauline and stuff like that. And I'm guessing that's probably what they were going for when they designed him for the show. As I mentioned, the Clock King episode was written by Bill Finger, one of the greatest of all Batman comic book writers. And some might say the greatest of all Batman comic book writers. For me, it's hard to say that because there's so many good comic book writers, but Bill Finger is the guy that I consider to be like the true creator of Batman. He gave us most of the things about Batman that make Batman Batman, honestly. Let's have a look at him next to the Adam West Batman figure, and we can see that he does stand slightly taller than Adam West, but only because of the top hat. I think they're actually about the same height. Other than that, but yeah, Bill Finger wrote that episode, and I don't think he got the job because he was a former writer on Batman comics. I think he got the job, as I recall, because he was a friend of somebody in the industry who had connections and was able to be like, hey, let me and my pal Bill write an episode. I don't even know if the people working on the show knew that he wrote Batman comics. It wouldn't surprise me one way or the other, honestly. But it was a pretty good 2-part episode. It wasn't one of the best episodes, but it certainly wasn't one of the worst episodes. I enjoyed watching it again and catching up on it when like I said, I was kind of trying to refamiliarize myself with this character. It was a fun episode. That was the episode where there's the scene where Batman and Robin go to the Dunbar Drive-In and order 2 Bat Burgers, medium rare, which nowadays I wouldn't advise eating your burgers medium rare. That's a good way to get some E. coli. I usually if they ask me how I want it cooked, I say medium. Like that's a little pink in the middle. I like a little pink in the middle. What man doesn't like a little pink in the middle? Steak, I'll eat rare, like blood rare. I'll eat a rare steak, but hamburger, it's not the safest to do that way. But that was the '60s, so I don't think they had as big a problem with it back then. Aunt Harriet gets to do some extra work in that episode. So I always like seeing some Aunt Harriet getting to do something in the episode. It's Bruce Wayne's birthday in that episode, which I don't remember the exact date, but I remember it's in February. That's official DC Comics lore. Is his birthday is in February. Uh, but yeah, she buys him a clock, which turns out that it's some kind of super scientific device that the Clock King wanted to keep for himself, and accidentally it winds up getting sold to Bruce Wayne, so he has to go and steal it back. So yeah, Aunt Harriet's a sweetheart, and I kind of like her being kind of like this surrogate mother figure to not just Dick Grayson, who is his biological, that's his actual biological aunt, but you notice Bruce calls her Aunt Harriet too, so he's kind of adopted her into his extended family. And that's the sort of thing Bruce Wayne does. He's oftentimes, just kind of picking up these kind of surrogate family members, and it makes sense to me. So but yeah, the Clock King on the show was a pretty good villain. The Clock King in the comic book, the Green Arrow villain, is kind of a goofy Silver Age villain, but he's fun. But I think the main reason anybody talks about the Clock King at all these days is because they're talking about Temple Fugit from Batman the Animated Series. And I would wager that a lot of people who might buy this figure are buying him because they're associating him with that Batman the Animated Series character, even though, like I said, I don't consider them to be the same character at all. But I'm glad to have him in my collection. I pretty much want to get like any character from the show that I can get, and I'm happy to have bought a lot of characters that weren't in the show. Bought a lot of characters that were in the show but didn't actually like wear that outfit in the show. Like our next episode, we're gonna go ahead and open up Joker Man, so that should be a lot of fun. And again, I reread this comic book in preparation for the episode, so I wanted to refamiliarize myself, and that's a fun story. And we'll talk about that a little bit when we open them up next episode. And then we've got Batgirl and the Batgirl cycle, so that's gonna round out our Batman 66 figures that we have to open this week, and then I'll probably get back into multiverse because I've got a lot of DC multiverse stuff to open up. We've got Bizarro, we've got Supergirl, we've got Jade, we've got a few Batman figures left to open. We got the Michael Keaton Batman, got the Christian Bale Batman. I think I've opened up all of my Ben Afflecks at this point. So unless I ever get the Zack Snyder's Justice League Ben Affleck figure, I think we're done with Ben Affleck for now, if I'm ever able to get that figure. Let's see, what else do I have? We opened up all the Dr. Fates. We opened up Two-Face. Oh, we got Adam Strange. Got a lot of cool stuff coming up. So if you don't want to miss any of that stuff, make sure that you like and subscribe and all the fun YouTube stuff down below. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about the Clock King. Not just the character in general, not just this figure specifically, but what's your favorite version of the Clock King? Let me know that in the comments, if you would, please. I gotta imagine most people are gonna say that Batman the Animated Series version, but I'm sure there's a few fans of the comic book version or the television show version that might want to chime in. But yeah, I figure, like, man, watching that Batman the Animated Series episode, like that's a really good one. Lone Dragon says it's about time you reviewed the Clock King. Oh yeah, I see what you did there. But yeah, like man, there's a lot of really good animation in that episode. The part where Batman is fighting the Clock King inside the clock with all the gears and the guts of the clock and everything, just very beautifully animated. There's a lot of scenes of Batman out in the daytime in that episode, which is highly unusual for Batman the Animated Series. They usually kept him in the dark. They usually kept him at night, but he goes out during the day a lot in those episodes. I kind of wonder, come to think of it, the second Clock King episode, That also has a lot of scenes that take place during the daytime, and I kind of wonder if maybe the Clock King didn't purposefully. I don't think he says anything about it, but maybe he purposefully chose to do a lot of his stuff during the daytime, just because it would be less likely that Batman would interfere. It didn't work because obviously Batman did, but man, the Clock King episode is definitely one of the best episodes, and this is a fairly early episode. So it was one of those where like you're watching it and you're seeing that this is going to be like a much more high quality series than any previous superhero cartoon series. Travi Patty says, I haven't seen the episodes with Clock King. I'll check it out soon. Well, yeah, like I definitely highly recommend it. Like those Batman the Animated Series episodes, like I said, the first one is definitely one of the best. The second one's good too, but the first one is definitely one of the best. And the scene where Batman escapes from the bank vault is just brilliant. Where like he uses the cassette tape and makes a pulley system. I won't say anything more about it since you haven't seen it, but you got to watch it. It's good. It's good. Like Batman getting out of death traps is like, obviously one of the most fun things of like any Batman, media at all. But that's definitely, I think, one of the more clever escapes that Batman's ever done from anything. But that's pretty much it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you like and subscribe and all that stuff. And we'll be back next episode with Joker Man. So make sure you don't miss that one. We'll talk to you next time. Bye.